Hello, I'm Amy Zawi with the Jerusalem Connection Report Friday Red Alert for June 10th. Proverbs 8:36. But those who pass me by do violence to themselves. All those who hate me love death. This verse came to my mind this week when I was reading about some events that happened in Sweden in late May. And I often wonder, even worry about societies who unwittingly pass by the Lord in order to provide violence or incite violence against themselves. Often without even their knowing it, they are inviting, even welcoming death. And I bring this up in the light of the BDS movement, the Boycott, Divest, and Sanction movement, a political and economic movement among college universities and political organizations to punish the nation of Israel and by extension the Jewish people. The BDS movement is just one avenue in a history-long chain or vein of hatred against the Jewish people and, when it existed, the nation of Israel. We saw the Assyrian Empire, the Egyptian Empire, medieval municipalities, the medieval church, of course in latter years, Hamas, the Arab League, all seeking to demonize the Jewish people and or the nation of Israel. In 1948, when the nation of Israel was restored to the map, indeed this hatred not only had a target of a people, but it had a geographical target as well as a political target. So what's going on in Sweden? An author by the name of Nina Ali Poor published in the Gladstone Institute just recently a story that happened in Malmö, Sweden. This is a city where Mr. Ali Poor had sat on the board, and he is a prolific published writer and has authored a few books. He was commenting on how this third largest city in Sweden, which is also a home to a major university and a significant Middle Eastern population, invited a known anti-Semitic speaker to come speak on campus and engaged local school children in that hospitality. Moreover, he drew the parallel that in the city charter that no hate speech or intolerance against any particular group is welcome in its city limits. Why then was this speaker allowed to come, knowing his ties to anti-Semitic remarks both published and recorded, as well as being known to be the inspiration to Osama bin Laden? Well, Palestinian student groups had invited him, and under the ruse of tolerant and progressivism, and under the idea of a diplomatic freedom, this gentleman was allowed to speak on campus. Mr. Poor was citing or noting the incongruence of this speaker and the danger of having the children in the community involved in hearing him within the city limits of a nation that does not allow, on its record, hate speech or anti-Semitism, in particular in its borders. Moreover, Mr. Poor noted 5 reasons why he thinks that maybe this was allowed. And these reasons actually ring true for many nations in the West, and as Americans you might hear some familiarity. Large-scale immigration from countries where anti-Semitism is normalized. This may be one reason why anti-Semitic speakers are not really alarming people that it is a problem or hate speech. A strong Palestinian engagement among Swedish politicians that has resulted in a totally surreal debate about the Israeli-Palestinian problem. That is, an unjust and unfair narrative about Israel has taken hold amongst the political realm, and as such, people who engage in this narrative are still welcome and not being criticized for their falsehoods. Also, a desire among political parties in Sweden to win the votes of these new immigrants who may gain citizenship. Again, very familiar to us here in America. A Swedish multiculturalism, which in its essence is a good thing, is so uncritical of foreign cultures that it is unable to recognize or differentiate or even discern the difference between a cultural norm or a cultural peculiarity and downright racism. The fear of sounding critical to immigration is another reason why some of these speakers are not denied. Again, something that Americans in this current political debate upcoming our presidential election seems to be a ringing issue, trying not to offend particular groups, especially on the issue of immigration. Important Swedish institutions, such as the Church of Sweden, has legitimized certain decrees, such as the Kairos Palestine document, that is unjustly accusing Israel of occupation and demanding Palestinian freedom. So back to my point about the Proverbs, about those who pass me by do violence to themselves, and those who hate me love death. What does that have to do with Sweden? It has to do with the fact that the Jewish people, who in Sweden are among 5 recognized minority groups, are being trampled upon by the actions of these speakers and the movements and sentiments they bring to the country. Moreover, Sweden has suffered violence, as has other parts of Scandinavia and Germany. You barely see obscure reports, but violent crimes are up in these nations, and they are often by the hands of immigrant populations, particularly since the upsurge of immigration due to the refugees coming out of the Middle East. Many of those refugees, or at least some of them, are truly trying to infiltrate the society under their own terrorist agenda, whereas many, of course, are suffering greatly. I wanted to bring this up so you all are aware and can be watching the news and combing it for these hints of what could be passing us by, how we can be passing the Lord by and inviting death or violence to ourselves. Shavua Tov, have a great week. Shabbat Shalom.